This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Bryan Driscoll, and I'm here with Nick Perry. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, I've been eating, sleeping, and investing in real estate for the past 8 years. I'm happy and excited to be here with you guys today, see if we can drop some bombs and provide a lot of value in a short amount of time.
Yeah, thanks, man. So Nick, you do a lot of different things in the real estate space. Now you're getting into like oil and gas stuff too. Give us a little background on give us a background on your history.
Yeah, I started off, pretty much humble beginnings. I had a very middle-class upbringing, lower middle-class, divorced family. My parents were in the federal government, made 50, 60 grand a year. And that was basically my upbringing. We had a nice childhood, but when I was 13, I went to go live with my dad because my mom had moved, my mom and my stepdad. And I went from lower middle class to super lower class. My dad, he struggled financially. He had, he was a landscaper trying to make ends meet. And I learned very early that, if I was going to have to take responsibility if I wanted to be financially successful. I was basically relying on my dad, who could barely, get groceries, much less keep the lights on. And I knew that if I was going to, do something, it had to be on my own accord. So I started working at an early age, retail jobs. I worked at the dollar store for, 2 or 3 years, and then did a bunch of, retail jobs. I dropped out of school at 16. I got promoted to store manager of the cell phone store I was working in. And I decided that was going to be it. That was the end of my school. I'd rather just go to work full time. So worked that job for a while. And then from that point, I became a personal trainer. And that was eye-opening to me because, I realized I was a really good personal trainer. I was, had a full book of clients. I was doing great, with everybody, getting them a ton of results. And I was still only making like $60,000, $70,000 a year. And all my clients were coming in and, they seemed like they weren't working nearly as hard, and they're pulling up in Bentleys and telling me about their vacation that they just got back from in the Maldives. And I was like, I have something messed up here. There's something wrong. I'm not doing something right, because they're not working nearly as hard and they have way more money, way more freedom. So I started interviewing my clients, and I realized they were all either entrepreneurs, they were in sales of some sort. And so that's really what got me started down the entrepreneurial journey. Is, one of my clients was very successful in real estate. I had another client that, owned a big company. And so I would, interview them while I was doing my sessions. And after, a couple of years of doing that, I decided I was going to branch off and do things on my own. I moved out of my hometown in Northern Virginia, and I went down to Austin, Texas without any knowledge of real estate. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any connections. I just knew I wanted to get out of my hometown and go start something for myself. So I started watching YouTube videos on wholesaling, and, kind of the rest is history. It wasn't an easy start. It took me 11 months to get my first deal. And I was scraping bottom. I was almost evicted from my apartment that I just moved into halfway across the country. But I was able to pull out of that and, kind of get myself, going in the right direction.
Dude, that's awesome. There's a lot to take in there.
Yeah.
So and anyone listening too, so you're telling me, which is really smart. You're being a personal trainer. You have all these people that are successful, paying you virtually to work out and use your expertise in that to get them in shape. But you're able to pick their brain too and learn what they're doing. Like, how'd you go about that? Like, what made you think to even start doing that? And like, what kind of things were you asking them?
Yeah, I think I just always wanted more for myself. And I didn't have the role models or financial role models in my life to really give me the right answers. And this is well before, everything was readily available online. So, they were like my role models at the time. I'd see, their accolades in business and what they've done and they accomplished. And I was a sponge for information. So, in between their sets, I'm asking them, hey, how did you get started? What would you do if you were my age? All those questions. and they would pour into me. Successful people are usually very, excited to pour into, people or younger people. So I was fortunate. Actually, one of my clients pulled me out of personal training, and he gave me a job as a new store opener for a franchise. So I would open new franchises, and I also did franchise sales. And that was where I got my first sales experience, really, and my opportunity. I got to travel the country. So, that was a really positive thing for me. I opened my eyes to, I don't want to be in my hometown anymore. I know sales is the route that I need to be in, and I need to own my own company at some point. So.
Yeah, that's huge too. And you're right too. Successful people, like if you hang around people or can get around them, successful people, they do want to help. Like they want to help people. They want to pour the information, and then you can save a lot of the sweat and tears from their experiences,
Hey, a smart man, learns from his own mistakes. A brilliant man learns from another man's mistakes.
Big time.
Yep.
Okay. So now you go down to Texas, and it took like 11 months. That's a long time to get the first deal. Like
dude, it was brutal. And this was not like 11 months of a half-ass effort. It was 11 months of, watching every YouTube video on wholesaling till nauseum while writing handwritten letters and getting myself high on Sharpie from doing bandit signs, and then spending, all evening putting out bandit signs, mailing, out letters, waiting for the phone to ring. I would get calls, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I'd screw up the calls, or if I did get an appointment, I would butcher the appointment. And I had to really just kind of learn the hard way. I didn't have somebody there. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have somebody holding my hand. So I had to get out there and crash and burn and crash and burn and crash and burn until, I got the traction. It took me, it was almost embarrassing, but it took me 104 appointments to get my first deal. So you can imagine the stress of that, like, especially when you don't have any income coming in. That was that was a very difficult time. That was what showed me what I was made of. And once I persevered through that, I knew that, hey, I can get through, I can get through anything.
How'd you keep pushing? Like, what made you not quit?
Well, it's funny because I, had already put in so much time and energy, and I was down to like my last like $800 in my account. And I realized I was like, my AC was broken in my car. I'm running seller appointments. While I just had surgery on my back, so I had a big, hole in my back, and I'm sweating in the Texas heat, and I'm striking out on appointments. And I remember I got to the point where I was like, look, I've already invested this much time, this much energy, and I don't have that much to lose. So, at this point, I'm either going to succeed at this or it's going to kill me. Like there's no other option. So I just burned my, ships of, any plan B, and I pushed myself to make it happen.
That's cool. How sweet was that first deal? How did that look?
I mean, it was a huge relief, because that was the proof of concept that I needed. Because I mean, you guys know, especially if you haven't done your first deal and you're listening to this, it all sounds good on YouTube. It all sounds good when you're listening to these podcasts. You're a believer, but you don't really believe it until that money clears in your account. It doesn't really hit home. There's always that slight disbelief, like all these people on the internet could be BSing me, right? And so for me to get that first check, that was amazing. And I actually had to